morning. Welcome back to the Homes Podcast here in Schenectady. We got to set the tone today, so we have brought in two property managers because I get a lot of buyers that are looking for long-term wealth, or as market shifts, and it may not always be the right time to sell a property because it's a cycle. Things go up and they go down, but what happens if you're not in a place where you can manage your own properties? And today we have two solution bringers in front of us. I got Harleen of Harleen Homes, and I've got Jason George of RPM, Real Property Management, RPM. I almost said Real RPM Management, like what's the noodle thing in Japanese? It's the noodle.
I don't know.
I forget now.
Oh,
My memory's shot. I don't know if it's the COVID or the chemo, but my memory is long gone. But once again, my name is Dave Kellogg. I just want to introduce the people in front of me. Joe is absolutely going to introduce himself. And we haven't talked, I'm pointing to the camera, we haven't talked in a while. So Happy New Year. I hope your holidays, end of year, was great for all of you and for anyone listening or watching.
Absolutely.
And I'm very, very excited to not only hear them present some information I might know, but they have a wealth of knowledge that I have no idea what I don't know.
Exactly.
You don't know what you don't know sometimes.
And what's great is that we're going to really touch upon the different experiences of our property managers. So we're going to be talking to our community and really get us dial in, take some notes. We'll have our team here talk to you about property management, but also their information will be shared throughout, right? Or available.
Their business cards will be put out. I got a question when I posted on the Capital Region Real Estate Investor. I'm like, hey, I'm looking for someone who wants to talk about their business, but they can't self-promote too much. It's like, well, what's in it for me? Well, the people listening or watching are going to have a chance to hear how you present your information and share your experiences. And I'd much rather, if I was going to hire someone, I'd much rather hire someone that I've had a chance to interact with, even voyeuristically, through online or, hearing it in the car while stuck in traffic, yelling at the car in front of me or whatnot. You build a relationship with them.
That's right.
So,
you're able to put a name to the face.
Yeah, let's build some relationships
exactly.
today.
That's what we're here to do.
Harleen, do you want to start and introduce yourself and give us a quick rundown?
Harleen's from Homes by Harleen, residential property management and leasing. I've been in business since 1997. I've been doing property management. I started out as a resident manager at Stockade East Apartments in Schenectady. I loved it. I had a passion for it. I got my broker's license, and I've been going strong since then, and I'm still doing it and enjoying it.
That's fantastic. So you've got 26, coming on 27 years of experience now.
Yes, that's right. I have 107 units in Schenectady.
Fantastic. Now, is that only in Schenectady, or are we talking like Scotia, Glenville?
No, well, I do some
Colony?
leasing in Schenectady, Rotterdam, Glenville, but property management is Schenectady.
That's 107 doors. That's a lot.
No, it's not. It's 107 units.
107
It's about 20, I figured it out here. It's about 14 doors.
14 buildings.
Yes.
Okay.
14 buildings.
All right. Awesome. Okay. So we're gonna use slang, colloquialism, whatever works in our industry, because we're in our industry. We use shorthand. If I said, hey, I need a CMA with an ARV of this property I'm thinking about investing, and I'm gonna burr it out. Can anyone tell me what the heck I just said?
Yes.
Tell me what I just said. Yeah.
All right. So we're looking at a comparative market analysis.
Yep.
ARV, automated valuation model,
And
aftermarket value.
After repair value.
That's right. After repair value.
Yeah,
so it's
I didn't know there was others. I didn't know there was others. Please.
Yep.
All right.
So what happens is many times is our abbreviations, they could represent multiple.
I didn't hear the one. I want you maybe after the show. I want you to talk about the one you just said, because I can't even remember it. The automatic.
Yep.
Oh, okay, so
We can get back to that for sure.
So I want a market analysis with proof of an after repair value on a property that I want to buy, rehab. So buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat. So, and that way I'm going to need a LTV loan, a loan to value of what percentage, so I can get my money back.
That's right.
Right, but we use that all the time because it's easy for us. It's like swiping a card. It's nothing. But so if you say something that's got a lot of abbreviations to it, I'm going to ask maybe you take a quick second to break it down.
Absolutely.
Jason?
Yeah. I'm Jason George with Real Property Management Capital Region. I have not been in business for 27 years. I'm a year in. Started last year, and I've owned my own property for eight years, and I've grew up with renters in our house, so I have a lot of experience in dealing with renters from as far back as I can remember. So.
So I do want to hear both of your origin stories. Harleen, you said you were a leasing agent for a Stockade?
I started out, I was hired, gosh, back in 1997 as a resident manager. I lived there
Okay.
and managed the property. And at the same time, I worked full-time for New York State. So this was all-encompassing. I did that, I think, till 2006, and it was purchased by another property owner from downstate.
Mm-hmm.
And then as soon as he came on board, he proceeded to buy multiple other properties. That all of a sudden I was managing all these other properties, and some of them were in Albany and one in Troy, which was, and I worked 4 to midnight for New York State. So when I look back on that, I was busy.
Yeah.
I'm busy now. I can't. It was
Yeah.
very busy. Some of them we renovated and turned over, and just things evolved. I loved it. I seemed to thrive in the business, and kept on doing it. I retired from New York State in 2015 to do the property management full time. I was doing it full time, right?
Yeah. So so in the beginning when you were a resident manager, you had to live there?
Yes.
Okay. When the new buyer took over, was that residency
No, I still lived there.
required?
I lived there for 13 years
Okay.
and loved it. and
So
loved it.
so in 2010 you moved out.
Yes, I bought a house. That's the only
Cool.
reason.
Fantastic.
Bought
Okay.
a house, right?
Perfect. Okay. And you said you currently manage 107 units?
Yes.
That's a
It's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people. See, that's important to remember. I mean, a door is a door, but it's the people living behind
People
it.
behind the doors.
Right.
Exactly.
And that's a huge piece that when we're talking dollars and cents, as a lot of investors call us and talk only dollars and cents, sometimes the people portion can be forgotten. So it's nice to always be reminded, hey, there are people behind this door.
That's how you retain tenants, by
That's right.
maintaining the relationship with them.
Perfect.
And that's important.
Perfect. Jason, can you give me your origin story? You said you bought
Yeah.
a single. It wasn't a single family if you have tenants living with you. So 8 years ago, how did that journey start?
Yeah, so I was looking for, and you look back and you kick yourself, but I had a nice big number I could have bought, and I decided to buy the smaller building, the duplex. And looking back, it's like, man, I wish I just maxed that loan out. But so yeah, about 8. I was working for a tool retailer. I was there for 13 years, and in that, my long-term goal was always to invest. So I started buying my own property, that first one, and I had all the money together to buy another 1 or 2, and I decided to start this instead of continuing, for now, investing.
With your first purchase, did you use an FHA loan?
No, I used a conventional, but it had a lot of the same terms as an FHA.
Because I tell a lot of my buyers, you get one shot at FHA, and it might be the right decision to buy a single if you are ready to slow life down. But if you want to start life a little busier, we can go up to a 4-unit.
Mm-hmm.
So with that conventional purchase, that conventional loan, could you've also gone to a 4-unit?
Yes. Yeah, I could have, and I could have. I went with the conventional because the house would not have passed an FHA inspection. So and that was a big. The deal would not have happened on an FHA loan.
So when in that process did you decide, okay, look, I want to start managing other people's properties? Did it happen organically? You're having Thanksgiving dinner and best friend Joe Schmo and Sally Sue are sitting there like, man, we don't want to manage our apartment anymore. Like what was your first client? And how did the first become second, become third, become whatever you are today?
So I'm at 30 doors now, and I'm just about to hit a year next month. So I don't know if it really, what ended up turning on was entrepreneurial. I just wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I was sick of working for a publicly traded, essentially a publicly traded company. I was sick of just dealing with that. So the property management just seemed like a great fit. I have a lot of construction background from when I was a kid. And then obviously dealing with tenants, my family's been doing that forever. So, just eventually I decided to open up a property management firm and do that.
Cool.
I'm that friend that everyone asks, hey, my hot water went out. You know, I'm the one that gets the text from all my all my friends.
What do I
so.
do?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so I think when you have 30 units, you know, you may be a little more hands-on, but I don't think with 107, Harlene's going to answer 107 texts in the middle of the night and say, oh, go check the thermocouple, you know, put a lighter underneath it or whatever. Because there's a certain point where you grow and you can't put that time into it.
Yep.
So,
Let me add that she does, though. Let me add that she does.
She does.
Because
Oh
it
my
depends on how, there will always be emergencies,
Sure.
but the texts come to me first.
Yeah.
And in most of the buildings, things are pretty well self-contained. Last night, a woman called me. She had just moved in, and the lights went off in her bedroom. She plugged in an extra lamp and the power. But that's not an emergency.
Right.
She had power through the whole apartment, so the maintenance man was there this morning at 8:30. But no, I called her back.
I love that.
So you were responsive to her needs. And you
Absolutely.
didn't dismiss.
And they
her
call
need.
me. I've got my cell phone is my best friend because
Yeah.
that's how you keep the line of communication open.
Because if you don't, then all of a sudden, that's another reason for a complaint or to pushing their complaint up to a higher manager, right? Or the owner if they happen to have
But-
their contact information.
No, when I was in Atlanta, I visited my children for Christmas, and my executive assistant, of course, she got all the calls, but there weren't that many. Quite honestly, it's a rarity. It's not a rarity, but if you maintain the properties well, you're not all of a sudden going to have masses of emergencies.
That's right.
It's true.
And I would think that with both of you managing properties, you have to set expectations, and you have to make sure that you're working with a product, right, a property that is in a respectable shape, and that's, I think that might be very important to both of you, correct?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you've got to make it in acceptable.
You have to make it.
That's the segue I was looking for.
Oh, there
Perfect.
you go. Yeah,
So,
thank you.
So, Joe, thank you. How do you take a property? If I bought a city of Schenectady property, which I do, and I love selling,
Yep.
I'm looking at you guys.
There you go.
What condition would you guys be willing to take a property? I know, Harlene, before the show, you said you manage larger units,
Properties.
larger properties. That's right. So you're not really looking for the 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s. But if I bought a warehouse and it was zoned 20 units, can I just give you an empty warehouse and you fix it for me?
That would be very expensive because now an empty warehouse, you're talking about plumbing, electrical, massive. And that's where your contractors come in. So that would you would have to definitely show me that you had the funds to do this and to do it well.
Perfect.
And
Okay.
do you work with an investor's contractors?
No, typically I don't. I've just taken on a property now that needs some renovation, and so before I even got involved in this, I made sure that she was going to do all the work that has to be done and then set her up with a contractor. She agreed to it because there's no point in doing it. She might as well sell it if she's not going to fix it up
Correct.
to a certain standard.
No, I like
It's a
that.
nice address, so why wouldn't you want to? And I want to be proud of it. I don't want to represent any place that I'm not comfortable going there late night or something, or
Right.
sending one of my agents there, or that I'm not happy to give you the address and let you ride by.
Yeah, you want to say, hey, look, this is a Homes by Harlene. This is my signs out front. I manage this professionally. I'm a professional manager. I don't want to be scared or embarrassed.
No,
And-
and it has to, for these two, I just called the woman this morning. She's got my landscaper. She's going to go trim the hedges. That'll be the first step. We've got the contract to go in and do the interior work that has to be done. But again, if it doesn't look perfect now, it will.
Okay.
It will look good.
So you would take them with a at least very decent, if not good, but have enough money or reserve amounts where you can tackle the projects to make things safe, secure, and better looking.
Yes.
So do you have a reserve amount? Like if I had,
No, you have a reserve
I have a
amount.
reserve
You're
amount.
the owner.
all right, well, so in my experience, the owner would fund a reserve amount that you would hold on to, like a security deposit,
What I call it an operating fund.
operating fund. Okay. So,
Oh, yes. And
So-
so we work from that on it. But now a big thing about, you're talking about the warehouse. Now that's going to be, I'm not going to do that. You're going to be paying that contractor. For me personally, the way I run my business, you're going to pay the contractor directly.
Perfect.
Small stuff, the painter, maybe, depending on your size of operating fund, I'll pay those having your lawn mowed, those things. But the big major improvements, I want you to work, because I don't mark up any of my maintenance. I know a lot of companies do, and that's another way to make revenue. I just don't do it. If it costs $700 to paint an apartment, you're going to get his receipt, and you're going to, if I pay the $700, then you reimburse me the $700.
okay. Oh, cool. Because I know, I'm sure Joe does as well. I get calls from outside our area, and they're like, "Hey, I'm looking at this $70,000 house, and I'm under the assumption that it needs some work, but I don't even want to come up for closing. You know, mail me the closing documents. I'll sign. You know, we'll do it in cash, and I want you to rent it." Well, I don't do the rental. Joe, do you do rental? Do you?
Not really, no.
Not really, no. So,
I have.
So the question then becomes, okay, if you're buying this, who is
gonna
going to
manage?
take it
That's right.
and turn the coal to the diamond and polish it and cut it and make it something you're proud of? Jason, I want to push this to you because I know you are more looking at. You'd be open to 1 to 4 units or
Absolutely.
whatever right now because you're growing your business. If you had a phone call like that, someone said, "Hey, Jason, I saw you on the podcast, and I want to basically remotely buy, and you manage it. Can you do that?" If you
Yeah.
had that phone call, let's pretend that was just the phone call. Give me your answer on that phone call.
Yeah, so I would do that. Yeah, absolutely. But it comes down to the owner really has to have the expectation that it's not in good condition right now. It needs to be in this specific condition when we're done with it. If we can't get there, I don't want to manage it. Like I don't want anything to do with that. And I've turned down some deals where it was just that. The owner bought the property but didn't have the appetite to actually get it to rentable, what I consider rentable condition, and we both walked away from the table because that doesn't work out good for anybody. It doesn't work out for me as a property manager because I'm dealing with tenants that are unhappy, the city possibly that's unhappy with it. It doesn't work out good for the owner because they're not making any money on it.
Your reputation's at stake as well. In both of your cases, I'd say we really want to be held to a high standard, and we want to represent a great product and respectable investors. Right?
Absolutely.
Right.
Yep.
And interestingly enough, as we're speaking about this in particular, what comes to mind is I'm educating my prospective buyers, and I'm actually punching holes in their theory, and that's one of the biggest things that come up in my conversation with them when I want to disqualify someone before I'm qualifying them, because I'm looking at this from a long-term investment perspective, and if we don't make the right decisions up front, it can become a very, very strong financial hardship to them down the road later. So I want to make sure that they do have all of their ducks in the row, so to speak. They want to, and that's one of the biggest things that come up in conversation. Who is going to manage your property, and how are you going to collect your rent, and who's going to walk your property on a weekly or monthly basis to make sure that everything's in order, because not only are you dealing with that particular property, you're dealing with neighbors, and if you have unhappy neighbors, they can very easily report the property, and that's been my experience in the past. So I just want to make sure that that's covered.
An unhappy neighbor with a will to slow you down
Correct.
is a thorn in your side that no one wants to deal with.
Right.
Right. So it's not just the property. It's the effect, the rippling effect of whatever you do with this property will affect the lifestyle of the people surrounding
That's
you.
right.
Absolutely. Cool.
That's awesome.
Do you guys want to tell us a story of like an exciting story or a horror story or anything you want to share to lend to your experience?
We just opened up a can of worms.
I don't want. I've got a
Can't-
horror
yeah,
story.
I don't
for
want.
sure.
We have to minus profanity and it would probably not give an exact address, but hey, a house in the Stockade or
Right.
something in Albany.
Ghost stories you're looking for, huh?
Yeah, well, I mean,
No, I don't have any of those, but I do want to mention, if we have this opening, is that for people who are new landlords, if they have a two-family, or for you, because you're embarking on your career, There's a group in Schenectady called Schenectady Landlords Influencing Change, and they meet once a month, and it's the director is Chris Morris, and she works very hard to get. We are an informational group.
Oh, that's great.
And have you heard of it?
I've heard of something similar, but no,
Okay.
none of that organization.
There's one in Albany too.
Yes.
Capital District, CADARPO is the acronym
Yep.
for it.
Yep.
Well, we are Schenectady.
Got it.
And it's a great place. Chris works very hard to get people from the city involved. We have Chris Lunn from Code Enforcement coming to the next meeting. I think it's January 10th. And I'll give you the address. It's at a church on Furman Street. I can't think of the denomination. It's First Church on the left. And it's at 6:30 on the Wednesday nights. This one is January 10th. And you get to network with landlords. We have political people from the city council that come,
That's
all kinds
great.
of great connections. The sheriff's department is there every month. And so this is the positive input I offer for anyone who's landlording, be it a 2-family, 10-family, whatever. It's a good resource.
Cool.
Fabulous.
I went to one. I went to
Did you?
the
Good.
November one when the police chief was there.
And that was the one that I didn't get to.
So it was funny because they had a map on the wall, and
I
they
would
were
love
they were
to
talking
find
about neighborhoods, and there was this one really red dot that talked about high crime. I'm like, I get areas, I get populations or people speeding on a busy street or whatever. What's that red dot? He's like, those are corner markets across from each other, and sometimes owners of markets will look the other way when nefarious things happen. I'm like, that's the reason? He's like, that's the reason. I was like, holy cow. I didn't know that a single property without could
identify.
have an influence that much. And it brings you back to like, wow. And then how do you make a landlord care that their property is negatively affecting the area?
Right.
And they didn't have an immediate answer for that. In Troy, they have like nuisance points. Like if you get your hand slapped too many times, they can shutter your doors. And if you owed a mortgage on a property and taxes and insurance on a property, and you couldn't have income for 6 months to a year, that would get my attention. Hey, all your debts are here,
Yep.
and none of your income. Good luck.
Yeah.
That would get my attention. Yeah, so I did go. Slick was fun to go to. I haven't had a chance to go back. It happens to be a little later in the evening for me because I put my kids to bed. All right, so I'm the read book kind of dad. So I had to leave a little before it ended, but it was very informative, and it seemed quite open, like it was inviting to go and be part of that atmosphere. So thank you for bringing that up, Harleen. When did you say that is again?
Schenectady Landlords Influencing Change, acronym SLIC.
And that's going to be this coming week,
Wednesday the 10th
Wednesday the 10th. Perfect.
at 6:30.
Cool.
I'll be there.
Cool. Very good. Since we're plugging outside the show, Jason, where did you see my invite to come here?
It was the Capital Region RIA group.
Cool. And can you break RIA down?
Yeah. So RIA, I mean, if you're watching this, you probably understand there's RIA groups around the country that get together and meet, and it's investors talking to each other, talking about deals and stuff like that. And that's a great, like Harleen's group as well. It's just those people getting together. You learn so much about what's going on. Specifically, that group has someone that was involved in the state legislative action, so he was kind of involved in, representing property owners for the stuff that New York State's doing, and just listening to what was going on and what's potentially coming down the line, and what we're, if you join that group, you can kind of help our position in, trying to make sure that some of those things don't happen. It's a great group for that kind of education, for sure.
And just being in the audience, you might not ask the question, but I'm sure it might come up in some shape or form where you're like, oh, that's the issue that I'm having, or I need some resolution. And just being involved in that conversation, I found many times that it's very helpful. It's very educational, informative, and eventually you're going to come to a point where just surrounding yourself with greatness, and knowledge is going to help you with your business. And at the bottom, at the end of the day, we all want to grow our business professionally and come up with an idea and solutions. So I did have a question about managing clients' expectations and knowing where they are in the process, in the relationship that you've built with your tenants. Because now all of a sudden, now you have to report back to the landlords and the property owners. So what types of tools and resources have you used that you found most helpful to manage those conversations? This is for both of you.
Yeah, I guess I'll start. Typically I do a monthly statement, and if anything pops up in that, I typically, before I send it, I'll say, hey, we went through this and that. We had, this repair that shows up there. I kind of walk them through anything that's abnormal in that statement, and a lot of times we're communicative enough where they should have. I'll start with this. If something's on that report that they haven't seen yet, I see that as a failure of my company, that they've been hit with an owner statement. There's a charge on there that they're not aware of.
Okay.
So really it starts with that, making sure they are aware of problems and making sure that they're aware of the cost to fix those problems. And yeah, long term, once we get a year of data together, we can go through how it performed, what they're looking to do with it, if this is performing for them, if they feel like they need to exit this situation, buy something else, or that's where we can have that conversation with them. Absolutely.
And how about yourself?
Communication. That's exactly it. You're right. If I can see that I'm going to need a new hot water tank at a particular property, my gosh, we just had one that we needed a new boiler. It was archaic. It was an old-fashioned boiler, and it was ceasing to be operational. I had to have maintenance go down there every week and make sure the water level was proper so that it wouldn't turn off. And then when we ordered the boiler, that took some time to get in. So we had to definitely keep close tabs on that. So, of course, I would get more than one price for the owner or work with someone that I've known and worked with closely before that's well respected. And because this was a big expense, this boiler.
Right.
And so, yes, of course, I would have talked to the owner before. That wouldn't just pop up on his bill.
So these people aren't being blindsided.
No,
they're being awareness to a situation or potential
And
situation.
that's what I always tell them. This is your property. If you want somebody who's going to handle everything, and that's probably not me, because I always want to communicate and let you know what's going on. That this is something that's going to cost a little bit more money. We've got to put a heating system in or whatever it is. So I'm very communicative.
I got
It
that.
sounds like you are.
Yeah, and it's oddly not as common from the feedback I get from customers that have come my way and I've signed. It's not all that common to have property managers that do that, which is bizarre to me. But
Because you're forward thinking, it sounds like looking at potential situations coming down the road and at least bringing awareness and being prepared. It
Well,
sounds
I
like-
would want to know. I always
Yeah, me too.
try to put myself in their position. This is my property. I want to know, and don't just tell me something's going to be seven.
Right.
This was expensive. He could have repaired it for one cost, which was expensive, but you can't know how long that one part is going to last in the boiler. In the boiler of this dinosaur
Right.
proportion. So he chose to replace it, which was the better option, because it will have to be done at some point. But always keep the line of communication open and
Got it.
talk to your landlords, your owners.
And I think a lot of times landlords are looking at, their bottom line, and they're looking at, say, if it's a multifamily property, they're looking at vacancy rates. Do you have a particular number that you use, that you educate your clients? In that case, that would be the landlords.
You mean like an expected vacancy rate?
Exactly,
across the
yes.
portfolio?
Yep.
No,
No.
because there's
The area?
you can have somebody that's been there 10 years and all of a sudden is transferred with their job, or life changes. So I personally can't project.
Okay.
I've got
Yeah.
people in little tiny studios, apartments, that you would think, how would you last there more than a year or two, that have been there 10 years?
They're
One
happy.
gentleman retired from CDTA. He's still there and it works. And there are people long-term in two families or rather two-bedroom units. So I don't think that you can predict that.
yeah, I try to avoid that question too. I mean, the national average on a multifamily is 2.5 years. National average on a single family is 3 years. So I kind of, if you're running a pro forma, probably run off of that.
Right.
But yeah, I don't really.
Okay.
yeah, I don't really get into that too much.
When I
'cause-
run numbers for investors, I didn't mean to cut you off, Jason. When I run numbers for investors, I do 5% vacancy and 5% repair value. Now, if it's a brand new house or an older house, you're going to have different things, or maybe location
I've
changes.
used that
But
number in the past.
I just use 5%, and maybe greedily I put that in there so when someone writes an offer that's based on cap rate or whatever, they don't put 10 in. Maybe I just throw a 5 in to keep it where I want it to keep it. But you can never assume 100% occupancy,
No.
and if you're at 40% vacancy,
Right.
then there's a problem, right? And there's something very seriously wrong either with management or the building. And I'm going to say with how aggressive the rental market seems to be, at least from my side, which I do want to ask you guys a couple of follow-ups on that. If I had a 40% vacancy, I'd be yelling at everyone that listened to me, right? I think that'd be fair, right? So, because we do so much business in Schenectady and the surrounding areas, what do you find is the most in demand type of property for renters? Are renters looking for the 19 bedroom, 4 bath because they've got 5 families living in one unit? Are people looking for a 2 bed, 1 bath, downsizing single family where they can have chickens like in Niskayuna? Or what would be the thing that if you could get several more of these type of buildings in your portfolio, you could have them rented tomorrow?
I would choose, and it sounds strange, I wouldn't have thought this perhaps years ago, but if I were investing in a building, I would do an upscale, maybe a luxury building, because they do rent quicker. They really do. Because something that's less is going to have, there's obviously drawbacks. There's something is not as welcoming or interesting to the tenant. So we have one that's a beautiful luxury building, and it's beautiful from the time you walk in. It's not old, it's updated, and those apartments never stay vacant, and those rents are around $1,500 a month
For a 2 bedroom?
for a 1 bedroom.
For a 1 bedroom. That's what I'm talking about. You put the money in, it makes sense to you. So I always over improve when I build multifamilies or when I renovate, because I'm not renovating for today's market. I'm renovating my portfolio. I want to represent itself all the way through. I don't want to be doing a C plus and then a B minus and say, well, now the neighborhood's coming up. If I start just putting all real high end stuff in everywhere, I know that high end stuff usually lasts longer, meaning less maintenance. If I design things right, it means the management portion becomes easier. You can reset the breaker in your unit, behind the picture of the cat, playing poker, the dog's playing poker, as opposed to asking property manager to come reset the breaker in a shared common area basement, right? But I feel like your finishes are more attractive and they last longer. And I mean, $1,500 for a 1 bedroom. I mean, I don't care where you are. That's good income.
And no, you're right. Those, and I shouldn't say anything, I'll get a call tonight.
Yeah.
Those people you don't have a lot of trouble with the clientele. And there's rarely anything that goes wrong in those apartments. And you're right, last night the call I got, the circuit breaker is in the basement. Luckily, it was just those 2 little lights in the bedroom that went out. You're right, the circuit breakers are in the apartment, they can reset it.
Yeah, I engineer my way out of future problems as much as possible. We talk about vinyl plank. Vinyl plank, great product, I guess.
Sure.
I see it
Yeah.
everywhere. I'm sick of seeing it. I hate it. I hate seeing it. I hate seeing
Mainstream now.
I just hate
Yep.
seeing it at this point.
Yeah.
But I go into an abandoned city property like the one on Lang Street that I bought, and it has hardwood floors in it.
That's
It's
beautiful.
104 years old. Now they're beat. But there is not a product that you can buy, in my mind, that's not a hard product like a quality tile or hardwood that you and I are going to walk barefoot on 140 years from now. You think you're going to be walking on vinyl plank 140 years from now? Nope. Shag carpeting from the 70s?
No.
How cool is that? Right? I mean, if you put the money in the right places, it pays you back.
And they're beautiful. They're refinish them, they're beautiful.
These are 6-inch wide, what I'd call subflooring planks. I don't think it was an expensive house when it was built, but I'm putting in a high color variation pre-finished hardwood floor over everything. I don't remember the color, but I can't wait to be able to take pictures and show it off because I want to be proud. What in your market, Jason? Same question to you. If you could get a couple buildings, what configuration would rent for the highest money quickest for you?
Yeah, and I'm going to second what Harleen said. It really almost the count of the bedrooms I've found hasn't really. It's the quality of the finish and what you've done to it to get it up to, rentable condition. I had one where the neighbors, it was up for rent, and the neighbors were like, "Oh, you're never going to get that much money for it." But we had done good work in it. We had brought it up beyond what everything in the neighborhood was, and we got what we were asking out of it. So, and it was quick too. It wasn't like we were vacant for a long time. It was relatively quick. We had it rented. So, yeah, that just came down to quality finishes, quality product, quality,
Yep.
and then quality tenant.
So tell me, we'll start with you, Jason, and I want to get to Harleen. What are the things that when you go into a unit and you're like, all right, it's got this, it's got that, it hits my checklist, I like this, I get excited. What excites tenants most, in your opinion?
Yeah, so I'd say, let's just say you have a 3-bedroom and you think about the logistics of having a 3-bedroom and you say, I don't know if I want to put a washer and dryer hookup in that unit. Well, you're forcing that family to go to a laundromat to go do their laundry. So if there's one for more money down the road with a washer and dryer, a lot of families are going to go with the one with the washer and dryer. And that goes with the dishwasher, that goes with all those kind of higher end appliances where it might not be in the lower end units, but you get up a little bit.
So they're paying for convenience.
Yeah.
You found.
Yeah. And it's convenience, it's time, I mean, you're not sitting in front of the sink for a half hour cleaning dishes. You can just set it and forget it.
If you don't have a driveway, right, and you have washer and dryer, then that means your tenants don't need a car or to Uber their stuff to the laundromat. So if your laundromat isn't literally across the street or down the hall, right, you've added now an Uber to, an Uber from, or you've necessitated a driveway.
Right.
So in my mind, if I don't have a driveway on my house, then you put in these features to kind of take away from the need to have a car. Hey, welcome to a place with no driveway, but every feature you desire is an Uber call. That
Yeah.
sucks.
Right.
Yeah. It's not a place I'd want to live. And you got to kind of look at it that way. Would I want to do this? And, for that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean you have to provide a washer dryer every time. There's some situations where I say you probably don't want to do that because, if that breaks, it's on the property owner. Sometimes, hey, this is becoming an issue. I'd probably throw a washer and dryer in there just to get it rented quick. But, yeah, that's my take on it.
So dishwasher and washer and dryer. Those are big ticket items.
I'd say for rentability, yeah. And it doesn't have to be, if you have a larger unit count and there's a good laundry center in the basement, that's fine.
Sure.
It doesn't need to be in unit, but
Yeah. If you have a 30 and you have a gym and a laundry center, you don't need to put something in you.
yeah.
All right. So I guess that does make sense on a smaller
does.
account. That's a really valid point. I appreciate that. Harleen, what excites you when you go in knowing I can
Well-
get top dollar for my client on this?
Parking.
Parking.
Because I'm talking about a multiple unit building, not a single family home. Any unit laundry is optimal. My 38 unit has a lovely brand new renovated laundry room, coin operated, and you put the card in and the money goes on the card. So it's open 24 hours a day to you, whatever shift you work. Secure delivery.
What
Because
does
this
that mean?
big Amazon business now.
Yeah. What is secure delivery? What does that mean?
Meaning that you probably all order from Amazon,
Yep.
have things delivered. You want someplace secure where the package can be left while you're at work.
Okay.
So-
So like access behind closed doors that the tenant can then access later.
Or
Okay.
the
But a
Amazon
mailroom.
delivery, right, man. We do our laundry room. We've given the code to people, or even we put it in front of our office door. If we see it, we put it in the laundry room, and then you come home from work, you can go in the laundry room and retrieve it.
Cool.
Pet friendly. That works in many properties. Again, it's tenant screening. You have to be, and you have some pets are a problem because of the layout of the building, or it just doesn't work at all. And again, I work for the property owners, so some property owners are just absolutely no pets.
Mhm.
And again, it depends on the individual case. Where they have the option, it's probably Dogs are a problem because they bark, unfortunately. And if you've got people right next door to each other and you're not considerate and you go to work and the dog barks all the time you're at work, that's an issue. So, laundry, parking, secure package delivery, pet-friendly, electronic rent pay is very popular.
It also helps not having to go around with a van and a shotgun every morning, making sure that you're not, being robbed every corner because, hey, it's first of the month. There's Dave, there's Joe, bag of cash. I can understand why that would be a no-go right away.
And if you're a busy lifestyle, it's easier for you to pay with Venmo or Zelle or whatever.
So I really like I'm in the process of, okay, how do I collect rent on 2 units? I want that to be the same way I collect rent on 1,000 units. If I'm not going to drive to 1,000 doors to collect rent in cash, then don't take cash from the first 2. Set yourself up for the long-term success by making those choices today.
Right.
Otherwise, it's a crutch. At what point if I grow to 10 units or 20 units or 30 units, at what point do I say, okay, I can't do it anymore? Well, Dave, I've been paying you in cash first of the month for the last 12 years. And
So
now you're taking that
managing
away from me?
expectations of your
Yeah,
tenants as well.
let's not change things. Let's set it up on day 1. So cool.
That's great.
Yeah.
As far as the fee structure, I know everyone manages their properties differently. Are you managing on the size? Are you as far individually when you're looking at the fee structure of what you're charging for your professional services? How does that work? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Are you suggesting it's not free?
No, it's a
Weird.
professional service.
Weird. Okay.
So yeah, I don't. For me, it doesn't matter how big, how much the person has or how many units they have. I'm either 8.9% of monthly rent or 10.9% of monthly rent. It kind of depends on what level of service they want. There's some things on 10.9 that I don't offer at 8.9, and that's kind of how I operate it.
Is it an a la carte service where you're giving your property owners different choices, and that would affect the?
It's kind of those two
Schedule?
options. There are some a la carte things I can do, like I do full-on property inspections or assessments, I'll say. Property assessments, I didn't say inspections, where I go through and, we just make sure nothing's degrading in the property, there's no issues, stuff like that. And we do essentially the same thing we do on move-in, move-out, just assess everything.
I see.
Make sure that
On your
sink,
terms, right?
yeah, we make sure that sink hasn't been leaking for the past 4 months and the tenant just didn't see it, which happens.
Or they see it and they bumped it when they
Or
put
they-
the Clorox underneath it and they were afraid to get charged $50, so they
Or
let
that.
your house rot for 4 months,
Yep.
which happens.
Yeah.
So we do that a la carte. On 10.9, we kind of just include that.
Oh, I see. How about yourself, Harley?
I have the rate varies. My fees are higher than his are, but the fees vary, and I don't have any a la carte services. We just try to do all of that for the one flat rate.
Got it.
But on the flat rate,
Right.
I will say I upcharge for maintenance, which she said she does not. So that's a big. We're probably pretty even if you look at it.
that's exactly my point I was going to bring in, right? If you're at cost for all that, you need to have more at the door, right, to do it. But if you have a lower door fee, then your drinks at the bar might be more expensive. But at the end of the day,
Everything
things
balances
cost.
itself out, yeah.
People are worth time and value, and
Right.
they're providing a quality service. So yeah, no, it makes sense.
I've said to prospective customers, there's just a cost of operating this business correctly and doing it well, and you might save a little bit of money on one of those cheaper property managers, but there's still a cost to operating this business, especially in New York State, and you're going to pay it one way or another, either with really bad service or
Right.
Yeah.
other ways. So
No, I absolutely think you get what you pay for, and you can only squeeze so much before someone says, "All right, well, now I'm losing money and I'm doing a favor as opposed to a business." So you get last call on everything. Cool.
And really bad service has such a ripple effect because it trickles down on the tenants, and then the tenants become dissatisfied and they move. And then it costs you to have a vacancy. And it
Plus the turnover, because turnovers aren't free.
Yes.
Clean, repair, readjust.
better to keep the tenants happy and keep them there.
And you're talking about ripple effect. What's
Well, the ripple effect is if you're giving poor service and you're not maintaining the
Yep.
property, the tenants will move, and then you'll have a vacancy, and then it
And people are looking at that on star ratings and with the different, with the internet today. Forget it. If you have a bad rating, people are going to see that immediately, and you have to address those.
And
negative
sometimes you
repercussions.
can't control that though, Joe. Sometimes if somebody didn't get their security deposit back, they're,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but that's only half the story. The reason that the reader doesn't see was
right.
Yeah.
that they left a horrific mess.
Yeah, I have a great example on that. I have
Yeah,
another
talk to us
property
about that.
manager that I refer out to. That it just works in the area I don't work in, so he has a terrible rating. But it's like, as the property owner, I had a conversation with a guy, and he's like, "Well, this guy's a terrible rating." I was like, "Well, if you read that rating, if you read what they say, I was like, wouldn't you want your property manager to do that for you?"
Right.
Because
Oh,
it was a
right.
tenant complaint.
Right.
And it was legitimate from an owner's eyes. It's like, yeah, that's exactly what I'd want my property manager to do
That's
in that
awesome.
situation.
Wow.
So take those with a grain of salt.
Yes.
Because there's always two sides to a story.
Because people are, in this day and age, everyone's looking at ratings and reviews. I think that's very important. So you do have to look at all of the when you're looking at that and choosing a property manager or any professional service for that matter. You have to really look at the entire picture and take that into consideration.
Sorry, my wife texted me, and she's the boss, so I have to make sure there's no emergency.
Is there? You good?
Not yet.
Oh,
We'll
there
see.
you go.
I just want to shoot her a text, so sorry for the interruption. It was very rude, but
Yeah, no-
we all answer to someone else.
I didn't
sometimes.
even notice, so
All right, all
you
right.
were
Well,
very
then,
discreet.
then I was very naughty for bringing it up. I want to talk about turns, real fast. So, turns cost money. So I completely understand the ripple effect. It's not just ratings, but if something's open longer, you make less money. So by having bad service, you make less income, which might mean you are able to afford less service, which will cause more vacancies, which brings in less money. Sometimes it's just better to get ahead of it. So on a turn, I want to talk about turns you've already done. So if you took let's say an 8-unit, and you haven't done any turns, and they've been self-managing or back and forth every now and then, what's an average like? And by turn I mean to make an apartment ready, usually in between tenants, because I want to make sure we're not like burying ourselves in the lingo here. What does it take if you haven't done that turn before? And if you have done that turn, let's say you did that 2 years ago, and it's a turn that you've already turned, what's the timeline? How long does it take from start to finish, assuming that there was no eviction, there was no bad acting, it's a normal wear and tear situation, and you knew about it coming up. They didn't leave in the middle of the night. Because all those can make sense. Like if I evicted someone tomorrow and I didn't know it was happening, they might beat the apartment up. That's unfair factors in this question. So if I ask that question fairly, whoever wants to answer first, what's a normal turn take?
I had a gentleman move out, and the woman wanted her lease. That's tough when their lease ends, and then it's a quick domino effect. But because I truly have a wonderful team of people, Julie came in there Friday night, and he did not leave the apartment in good shape, and so she cleaned it. She came back early Saturday morning. Sonia was signing the lease Saturday afternoon.
Wow.
Jermaine came in, my wonderful painter, and touched up because he was really careless moving out, scraped the walls, and you could see, so that she was able to sign the lease on Saturday afternoon, New Year's Eve, and get that woman in before the 1st.
That's a quick turn right there.
That's a quick turn.
That's incredible.
That's
Yeah.
we had one.
Is that a 24-hour turn? Is that what you just described to me?
Yes, on J Street. But there again,
Awesome.
The other one didn't leave the apartment in good condition. This is a studio. I was with him yesterday. He and his mom were moving out. That apartment is already rented. So this year I'm doing a walkthrough with my cleaning person.
Oh.
She's going to walk through with me when these tenants move out.
Yeah.
Because she sees things that I don't see.
I see.
And it takes me out of the equation of being the bad guy, too, that you left this dirty, like somebody's mother pointing out the room isn't clean. And Julie is the one that will be cleaning it anyway. So this worked well yesterday. She went in and told them what had to be done. So this will save the owner money, because what it cost me to pay her to go with me yesterday was nothing compared to what it would cost her to clean this up had he not followed her directive. He did follow her directives. He did the cleaning we were supposed to do. Now I can get this new person in quicker.
So he saved money, and the owner saved
The
money.
owner saved money, yes.
And the tenant
you're
saved money,
right.
so it's a win-win.
Tenant saved money because this will not come out
Yeah,
of his security
that's a win-win.
deposit.
Yep. Cool.
Yeah, so this is one of those questions where I'm pretty new and I don't know if I have enough. So typically the properties I took on in the beginning had issues, right? There were eviction going on, then the person leaves in the middle of the night. And so I haven't had like a true normal turn.
Yeah, all your
It's-
turns have been more like a bring it to where you want to be kind of turn. So it's a renovation based turn.
Yeah, I've just about every one I've done so far, we've had to renovate it because I was taking over a
I've
bad
got
situation.
those too. Don't despair. I've got those too.
So those typical, like, how I want to go and going forward is do an inspection before they move out, get an idea what we need to do. If we don't need to do anything, we'll get it on the market and try and show it before if they
Yep.
agree and get someone in, hopefully that quickly.
It doesn't always happen.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't always happen.
We're definitely talking about some best case scenarios, with a smattering of what ifs. But I mean, that's awesome to have a 24-hour turnaround or to have zero vacancy
But that's
in between.
because, yeah,
It's a lot of prep and planning. That's a lot of hard work, Harleen. That's
well,
awesome.
it's only because I've got a good team. Think of
just
it.
gonna
If
say
I
that,
didn't
yeah.
have that good team,
Yeah.
could not have happened.
Yeah, but
So they are wonderful.
that's awesome.
That's great.
I don't know if I'm trying to remember the questions that I had thought about previously, but I feel like we've answered a vast majority, and we've had a really nice, just general conversation.
We have.
Is there anything that anybody want to talk about that we prepped ahead of time?
Yeah, there is one thing I usually try and talk about, which is if you're starting out and buying property, I would look at it as, so if you're buying a commercial property, they will make you put in property management to pro forma to buy that property.
Mm-hmm.
You should be doing that on a smaller multifamily too, so under 4 that you can buy residential. You should be putting that in your numbers. And why I say that is at some point, while you can do it yourself and you kind of touched on it a little bit, where you can do that yourself at 2 units or 5 units or 12 units, you get to a point where you have to make that decision on either almost starting your own property management company and starting to do that almost professionally or hiring that out.
Yep.
And there's a cost to that. So if you're buying these all at zero property management cost and you don't have that money to float that, it will come around if you're scaling for sure. So I usually say that to early on investors, just say, look, you gotta put that in your pro forma. Make sure that's in there. And I'd account for it for sure.
I talk about a CapEx account as well. Like if you're buying a property that hasn't been fully renovated, you're going to put $100 a unit away into an envelope. It doesn't have to be an envelope. It's just a way to envision it. And, put that away. Because maybe you'll need a roof this year, maybe you need a roof in 10 years, but eventually you're going to need a roof.
Sure.
And eventually you're going to need a furnace. Eventually you're going to need a new kitchen set. Eventually you're going to need all of it. Right? Mm-hmm. So I don't want a roof to go, and then you look at your kids and say, hey, kids, tree hit our roof. I ignored the tree. I ignored the roof. Now we have an issue. No Disneyland this year because I haven't been putting $100 per door into an envelope for the last 20 years. Well, that adds up, right? So I don't, when I do a cap rate, I don't put in property management fees, but when I do if someone is really serious and I think the buyer is actually going to spend the money, I'll do a cash-on-cash return and make it, okay, your interest rate's 9% because your credit score is not great. If it was 8%, you would have a better cash-on-cash, and you take everything into account. Maybe I do. It's been a while. I haven't had investors ask me for the nitty-gritty numbers in a bit. It's been a lot of
Yeah, and I think
owner-occupied
I
1
think
to 2.
that's where investors go wrong is they don't ask people,
Yeah.
how do you run your numbers? How do you do this? How do you get into this and kind of assume and a lot of the people in the beginning really don't. They're figuring it out, but it's good to ask those questions to your real estate agent like you. Just ask how you're going to run. How do you run your numbers?
Joe and I both deal with out-of-town clients. Be like, well, you don't want to pay $75 a month to have someone come mow your lawn twice. Cool. Go buy a lawnmower, put it in the back of your Audi from the city, bring it up here, mow the lawn. Tell me how that goes. I think it's $18 one way on the GW, on the George Washington Bridge. So worth $72 right there.
Yeah.
You think gas is free or time is free? So, I mean, I don't know. I feel like having local talent that you can rely on and being able to communicate with freely and open and honest and have that professional relationship is way worth more than the dollar you're going to spend on it. And when you two were talking earlier about how you communicate out, if my roofer gives me a quote, I don't argue it. I just say, yep, done. When my electrician gives me a quote, I don't argue, done, because I've worked with them, job after job after job, and I know we're both there to grow each other's business without getting each other any extra than we need to. So if someone was managing my property and I had a good relationship with, whatever, if I had 1,000 units, heaven forbid, and you were managing all 1,000 units, I don't know if I'd want to know about a water tank anymore. It's just part of the equation. And if Joe and I as agents put that thought in their head and they say, hey, you're going to have things come up because nothing will last for infinity. So if you are aware that things come up and there are costs and transactional costs and value changes to your business, do I want to get binged, at 10 units a month where something fixed, or do I want to enjoy my time on the beach? And for me, time on the beach. But I can understand how different owners would say, how did you spend all my money? Why did you replace that 1921 hot water tank? And what do you mean they need hot showers? And I don't know, man.
But
I've
it
seen
also
Know
roofs.
your owners.
Yeah.
You have to know your
Yeah,
owners.
absolutely.
Is it harder to pick a tenant or an owner?
I think tenant.
Tenants are harder to pick.
I think so too. I find it easier to kind of get a gist of what the owner's idea for the property is, and you have conversations with them, and you can kind of get that, hey, this property isn't in great condition, and they have no interest in updating this.
Yeah.
So I've been there.
Then you can bow out. then.
Right,
You
exactly.
can bow out.
Yeah.
With a tenant, once you get them in there and they are unconscionably disrespectful to the neighbors, or they don't pay the rent, or it's not so easy
Yeah.
to remove them.
Right, and the laws are not in
The
favor.
laws are
That-
No.
terribly
The
unjust.
landlord.
the pendulum swings, and in my opinion, the reason the pendulum swung so hard in tenants' rights favors is for so long maybe landlords were bad actors. What if landlords were bad actors enough to need these protections, and it went on for so long that these protections had to be codified in law, that now, we're super protected, and now landlords are like, well, I can't kick people out, and they're destroying places and whatever. At some point,
You're right. I
at some
think you're
point,
right.
we're going to be in the middle. So maybe if more landlords said, hey, or homeowners, I don't know, I don't want to use the word landlord. If homeowners had more professional management and they played by the rules and they did their maintenance and they
Sure.
treated people, if they treated their investment as an investment and they had professional people manage it, maybe we wouldn't have had such strict laws go in tenant favor.
Yeah.
What if it was so good for so long to be a landlord that it was just take, and without putting anything back in?
That's a good point,
Maybe
yeah.
You can't do that. I truly believe you have to put yourself in the tenant's position. Would you want to live in this condition?
Right.
Absolutely.
Would I wouldn't live there, then
Yep.
that's it's not right.
So when I owned and managed rental properties, I had lived in every single unit personally with my wife and kids that I had ever rented, and that's still
That's quite a
true
feat.
until Lang Street, because I don't plan on moving into it.
Mm-hmm.
But I build it for my kids, and in fact, that property will be one of my children's house at some point. So not only do I build it with them in mind, I'm renovating it for them to keep it and also not have the headache of unhappy tenants, right? Because for me, it's a generational thing. We are coming up on our hour. Is there anything anybody wanted to ask, talk about, interject, story tell?
Nope.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, so we have Slick coming up. There's a monthly Capital Region. Korea is Capital
Where
Region.
do they hold those meetings?
They hold them at, I forget, they switched hotels, and I get them messed
Is that
up.
the one that used to be at the Century House? That
No,
group.
that was a different group.
That was Action Investors now.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
So
Are
there's-
they still? Are they still?
I think they are more online
Oh,
than they
okay.
are in person. I could be wrong, but that's something to
Those
definitely
were
check
good
out.
meetings.
Yeah,
I
they were
have
great.
gone to some
Yeah.
of those.
Same feel.
Investor
Hmm?
meetings.
Same feel. The Capital Region Real Estate Investor Association. That's the lettering there. And that is not in the Century House, but it is in Clifton Park in a hotel.
It's
They
the
did just recently
Marriott,
change.
right?
It just changed. I don't recall.
Yeah, I don't either.
But-
They moved to the other side of the highway. No, the other. Yeah, so
Yeah, that is. It feels like a highway, but it's not in 87.
yeah, so there's that
There's a
one. And
Holiday
then
Inn over there.
Yeah.
there's also Mohawk Hudson Investor Exchange, which I think might have been like an offshoot of that one you were talking
Action
about.
Investors.
Yeah.
I've been there a long
And
time.
that one's good as well. I go to both of those, and they're both different things from different. Yeah.
Courtyard currently, it's coming up January 16. Courtyard Marriott, Clifton Park, 627 Plank Road, Clifton Park, New York, 12065.
So see, you can go to both. You can go to the SLIC meeting on January 10th and hit this meeting as well.
So I think all in all, I think what we want to do is just grow who we interact with. Because if I hadn't heard your conversation, I may not pick you out for one of my, people I refer to or personal property management. If I hadn't met my electrician at Action Investor Network,
Okay.
I wouldn't have picked Steve. And Steve has done every job I've ever had.
Wow.
And he gave
a
me a
relationship
quote.
there.
He
So
gave me a quote.
networking is the key.
He,
then.
he gave me a quote. I paid him up front. Everyone's like, why would you do that? Because I trust him. I've done the work so much. I trust him. Same with the roofer. If he says, hey, up front today, okay. You got it, buddy. That being said, I think we hit everything we want to talk about.
We did.
I did want to hear a little bit about where you want to take your career in the next couple years, but I think there'll be time for that another time because I'd love to have you back, or maybe we'll do like a 50-second update. Say, hey, anything new for fun stories or what have you. Joe, do you have anything else you want to
No,
bring
I
up?
think we pretty much touched
Cool.
on everything today.
So in 2024, we have an aggressive schedule, right? What are we? Every other week is our plan.
Seems to be yes.
That's an aggressive schedule. Hopefully, we can actually keep it up. For everyone out there listening and watching, thank you very much, and look forward to the next one, 2 weeks.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.